My name is Delmar, and at 29 years old, I built a tech security company worth millions while healing from family wounds nobody saw. For years, my achievements collected dust while my brother Travis got standing ovations. When my parents skipped my biggest industry award for his basketball tournament, something inside me finally broke. I stopped answering calls, changed my number, and disappeared from their lives. Little did they know I would end up on Forbes' cover. If you're watching, drop a comment saying where you're from, and hit subscribe to follow my journey from family outcast to tech success. Growing up in suburban Pennsylvania, my family looked picture perfect from the outside. My father, Robert, was the beloved head basketball coach at the local high school, bringing home regional championships 3 years in a row. My mother, Patricia, taught 5th grade at the elementary school, known for her creative teaching methods and warm personality. Everyone in town knew the Williams family, especially because of my younger brother Travis, the basketball prodigy following in Dad's footsteps, and my sister Laura, the beautiful honors student who never seemed to struggle with anything. Then there was me, the odd one out. While Travis dominated the court and Laura charmed everyone around her, I found solace in a different world entirely. Computers fascinated me from the moment my hands touched a keyboard at age 7. By 10, I was taking apart old desktops and rebuilding them with upgraded parts scavenged from yard sales. At 12, I wrote my first basic program, a simple calculator that impressed my computer science teacher, but barely registered at home. "Delmar, come watch your brother practice," Dad would say every Saturday morning. "You might learn something about teamwork." I tried basketball once. The memory still stings. 13 years old, gangly limbs and zero coordination, dropping passes while Dad watched from the sidelines. His disappointment was palpable. That evening, he spent 2 hours in the driveway coaching Travis on his three-point shot while I worked alone on coding a basic website. "Some people just aren't athletic," Mom told me afterward, patting my shoulder. "But Travis has real talent. We need to nurture that." The pattern continued throughout middle school. When I won the county science fair with a homemade weather prediction program, only my science teacher attended. My parents were at Travis's regional basketball tournament 3 hours away. They called afterward, Mom's voice bright but distracted. "That's wonderful, honey. Did you take pictures? Travis scored 22 points today." High school brought more of the same. My 16th birthday fell on the same day as Travis's championship game. We celebrated my birthday the following weekend with a small dinner. Travis's victory celebration included a surprise party with 50 people, a professional photographer, and a custom cake shaped like a basketball court. The one person who really saw me, was my grandmother Eleanor, Mom's mother. Grandma Eleanor had been a mathematics professor in the 70s, breaking barriers for women in academia. She understood my passion for technology in a way my parents never could. "Your mind works differently, Delmar," she would tell me during our Sunday afternoon visits. "Some people build with their bodies, others with their minds. Neither is better, just different paths." When I was 15, I showed Grandma Eleanor my first serious programming project, an inventory management system I built for her Bridge Club's community library. Her eyes lit up as I walked her through the features. "This is extraordinary," she said, examining the clean interface and logical systems. "You have a gift." 2 months later, Grandma Eleanor passed away from a sudden stroke. At her funeral, I stood silently while my family received condolences. Several of her former colleagues approached me. "Eleanor talked about you constantly," one elderly professor told me. "She said you were brilliant with computers. She was so proud." That night, I cried alone in my room, not just for her loss, but for losing the only person who truly recognized what mattered to me. My junior year science project won state recognition. The awards ceremony was scheduled for a Thursday evening in April. When I reminded my parents 2 weeks before, Dad checked his calendar and shook his head. "That's Travis's playoff game. The scouts from Duke will be there. This could determine his whole future." "Can't you come after the game?" I asked. "The ceremony starts at 7. Mom looked apologetic but firm. "Honey, these games run late, and we always take the team for pizza after. It's tradition. We'll make it up to you." They never did. I accepted my award in an auditorium filled with other families, an empty seat on either side of me. The local paper ran a small story about my achievement on page 8. Travis's game coverage took the front page of the sports section, with a full-color photo of Dad embracing him after the winning shot. I stopped asking them to attend my events after that. I poured myself into coding, staying late in the computer lab, building programs and learning everything I could about emerging technologies. My guidance counselor noticed my work and encouraged me to apply for specialized scholarships. With your talent, you could get a full ride to a top program, she said, handing me applications. Don't let this opportunity pass. The morning my MIT acceptance letter arrived with a full scholarship offer, I placed it on the kitchen table beside my coffee mug. Mom glanced at it while preparing breakfast. Massachusetts? That's so far away. Her forehead creased with worry. Wouldn't you rather stay closer to home? The state university has a computer program. Dad barely looked up from his playbook. College is expensive, Delmar. Are you sure this is practical? Computer fads come and go. That same week, when Travis received offers from 3 Division I schools with basketball scholarships, my parents threw a barbecue to celebrate. Neighbors, extended family, even the local mayor attended. Someone made a banner reading Travis Williams, future NBA star. No one mentioned MIT or my scholarship. I packed for college that August with a mixture of excitement and relief. Finally, I would find my people, others who understood the world I lived in. As the car pulled away from our house, I watched my childhood home recede in the rearview mirror, wondering if I would ever truly be seen by my family. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology campus buzzed with an energy I'd never experienced before. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who spoke my language, both literally and figuratively. During orientation week, I met students who had built robots, developed mobile apps, and created algorithms that could predict consumer behavior. Nobody looked at me strangely when I talked about coding for 12 hours straight, or the beautiful logic of efficient programming. Despite my full scholarship covering tuition, books remained expensive, as did the specialized equipment I needed. Unlike many of my classmates whose parents funded their education and living expenses, I was on my own. Within 2 weeks, I secured 3 part-time jobs: morning shifts at a campus coffee shop, weekend tech support for faculty members, and late-night monitoring at the computer lab. Between classes and work, I averaged 4 hours of sleep most nights. You're going to burn out, my academic advisor warned during our first meeting. Even brilliant minds need rest. But years of working alone in my bedroom while my family focused elsewhere had prepared me for this grueling schedule. I was used to pushing myself without external support or recognition. During my sophomore year database management class, I was paired with Aaron Feldman for a semester project. Tall, with wire-rimmed glasses and a booming laugh, Aaron approached programming with a creativity that complemented my meticulous technical skills. "You code like a machine, Delmar," he said one night as we debugged our project. "It's impressive, but also terrifying. When do you breathe?" Aaron became the first true friend I'd ever had. We stayed up late debating technology ethics, shared terrible dining hall meals, and covered for each other during exhaustion-induced absences from morning classes. Unlike my family, Aaron asked questions about my projects and actually listened to the answers. The summer after sophomore year, most students left for internships or returned home. Having neither option secured, I stayed in a cheap sublet near campus and picked up extra coding jobs online. Aaron stayed too, citing a research position that I later discovered he'd invented to avoid leaving me alone. One sweltering July evening, Aaron burst into our regular study room with a 6-pack of energy drinks and wild eyes. "I just read about another major data breach, 3 million customer records exposed," he said, cracking open a can. "That's the 4th this month. The security protocols everyone uses are fundamentally flawed." For the next 6 hours, we sketched out ideas on whiteboards, debating approaches to a more secure data architecture. By morning, we had the skeleton of something revolutionary, a security framework that adapted in real time to potential threats, learning from patterns without compromising speed. "This could be big," Aaron said, surveying our work. Really big. We spent the rest of that summer building a prototype, sleeping on office couches and surviving on ramen noodles and vending machine snacks. When the fall semester began, we continued developing our system between classes and jobs. We called it Secure Shield, a dynamic security protocol that could protect sensitive data with unprecedented effectiveness. During a rare call home that September, I tried explaining our project to my parents. "That's nice, dear," Mom said, distracted. "Did you hear Travis got selected as team captain? The coach says he might break the school scoring record this season." Dad took the phone. "When are you getting a real job, Delmar? Your brother's already been scouted by several pro teams, and he's still got 2 years of college." I hung up feeling deflated but not surprised. That evening, Aaron found me staring blankly at my computer screen. "Family stuff?" he asked, pulling up a chair. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Well, they're missing out," he said simply, "because what we're building here is going to change the industry." In our junior year, we entered Secure Shield in the university's innovation competition. After advancing through 3 rounds of judging, we presented to a panel that included Gregory Winters, founder of a successful venture capital firm specializing in cybersecurity. Our demonstration wasn't perfect. The application crashed once, and I stumbled over my explanation of the neural network component. But the core technology worked, demonstrating how it could have prevented 3 recent high-profile data breaches. 2 days later, Gregory contacted us requesting a private meeting. In a small conference room at the Campus Innovation Center, he offered us something that seemed impossible: $500,000 in seed funding for 20% equity in whatever company we formed around Secure Shield. "This solves a problem every major corporation is facing," he said, sliding the term sheet across the table. "With the right development and marketing, you could revolutionize data security." Aaron and I incorporated Secure Shield technologies 2 weeks later. We converted our dorm room into an unofficial headquarters, set up dedicated development servers under my bed, and hired 2 classmates as part-time programmers. Between classes, jobs, and our fledgling company, sleep became a luxury we rarely afforded ourselves. By senior year, we had secured 3 clients for pilot programs: a regional bank, a healthcare provider, and an e-commerce platform. Each implementation revealed new challenges and opportunities for improvement. We worked around the clock refining our product, barely noticing as graduation approached. 2 months before graduation, the technology blog TechCrunch published a feature on promising security startups. Secure Shield received a prominent mention, with industry experts praising our innovative approach. The article generated interest from potential clients and additional investors. That evening, I called home, excited to share the news. Travis answered. "Mom and Dad are at my game," he said. "We're heading to Nationals next week. They're throwing a send-off party this weekend if you can make it." "I can't," I replied. "We're meeting with investors." "Who's we?" Travis asked. I realized then that I had never really told my family about Aaron or Secure Shield. They had never asked. "Just some business partners," I said vaguely. "Hey, good luck at Nationals." "Thanks," Travis replied, sounding genuinely pleased. "So, this work thing you're doing, is it going well?" It was the first time anyone in my family had asked about my career in years. "Yeah," I said, a small spark of hope igniting. "It's actually going really well." After graduation, Aaron and I rented a small office in Cambridge and hired 3 full-time employees. We lived in a cramped apartment nearby, reinvesting most of our seed money into development and salaries. Gregory introduced us to his network of industry connections, helping secure meetings with potential enterprise clients. Secure Shield began gaining traction in the cybersecurity community. Our client list expanded to include 2 Fortune 500 companies implementing our system for sensitive customer data. Industry newsletters mentioned our innovative approach, and competitors started advertising similar features. When we hit our 1-year anniversary as a company, we had 11 employees, stable recurring revenue, and growing industry recognition. What we built was working, proving that all those late nights and sacrifices had been worthwhile. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe that I had created something truly valuable, something that could define my life beyond the shadow of my family's indifference. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning in March. SecureShield had been nominated for the Cybersecurity Innovation Award, one of the most prestigious recognitions in our industry. The ceremony would be held at the annual Security Summit in San Francisco, with coverage from major tech publications and industry leaders in attendance. "Holy shit," Aaron whispered, reading over my shoulder. "Do you know how big this is? Companies 10 times our size would kill for this nomination." Our small office erupted into celebration. The team popped champagne at 10 in the morning, making impromptu toasts with paper cups. As CEO, I would accept the award if we won, delivering a speech to an audience of the industry's most influential figures. The exposure alone could transform our company's trajectory, regardless of whether we took home the trophy. That night, alone in my apartment, I stared at my phone. Despite everything, a part of me still craved my family's approval. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number I rarely called anymore. Mom answered on the 4th ring. "Delmar, what a surprise. Is everything okay?" I swallowed hard. "Everything's great, actually. I have some big news. The company I founded has been nominated for a major award in our industry. The ceremony is next month in San Francisco." A pause. "That's wonderful, honey. I was thinking," I continued, the words rushing out, "maybe you all could come. It's a really big deal, and I'd love for you to be there. I can pay for everything. Flights, hotel, the works. The ceremony is on the 15th. Another pause, longer this time. "Let me check with your father." I heard muffled conversation, then Mom returned. "We'd love to come, Delmar. It sounds important." My heart soared. After all these years, they would finally see what I had built. I immediately booked 4 business-class plane tickets and reserved rooms at the Fairmont Hotel, sparing no expense. I sent detailed itineraries to my parents, Travis and Laura, along with information about the award and links to articles about SecureShield. For the next week, I walked with a lightness I hadn't felt since childhood. 8 days before the ceremony, my phone rang during a board meeting. Seeing my mother's number, I excused myself to answer. "Delmar, I'm so sorry to do this," Mom began, her voice carrying that familiar apologetic tone I'd heard countless times before. "We're not going to be able to make it to your event." The floor seemed to drop beneath me. "What? Why not?" "Travis's team made the Interstate Championship. The tournament is that same weekend, and your father needs to be there to support him." I gripped the phone tighter. "The tournament lasts all weekend. The ceremony is just Friday night. You could attend both." "Delmar," she said, her voice taking on an edge of impatience, "you know your father can't miss this. It's a defining moment in Travis's career." "And this isn't a defining moment in mine?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You know what I mean," Mom continued. "You've always been independent with your computer things. Travis needs our support right now. Scouts from professional teams will be watching." Dad's voice came on the line. "Son, you know I can't miss this opportunity for your brother. This could determine his entire future. You understand that, right? You've always got these technology awards, but this is Travis's shot." The casual dismissal of my achievement, of years of sacrifice and work, struck like a physical blow, as if what I had built was a hobby, not a career. As if my moment in the spotlight was routine, not exceptional. "Right," I said flatly. "I understand. We're proud of you," Mom added quickly, "and we'll celebrate when we see you next. Maybe you could come home for Easter?" I ended the call and stood motionless in the hallway, staring at the wall. Aaron found me there minutes later. "Board's waiting," he said, then stopped. "What happened?" "You look like someone died." "My family can't make it," I replied mechanically. "Travis has a basketball tournament." Aaron knew enough about my family history to understand the significance. He placed a hand on my shoulder, saying nothing because nothing needed to be said. That evening, I scrolled through my social media feeds out of masochistic curiosity. My mother had posted about Travis's upcoming tournament. "So proud of our boy heading to the Interstate Championship. The whole family will be there to cheer him on." The accompanying photo showed my parents, Laura, 2 aunts, an uncle, and my father's parents, all wearing team colors. They had managed to gather the extended family for Travis's game, including relatives who lived out of state. The same relatives who had declined my invitation because travel is so difficult these days. I spent that night in my office, working until sunrise to avoid the thoughts swirling in my head. The week before, the ceremony passed in a blur of preparations and rehearsals. I revised my acceptance speech a dozen times, removing all mentions of family support. The night before flying to San Francisco, I received a text from my mother. "Good luck at your computer thing tomorrow. By the way, Travis needs new training equipment. Could you send about $2,000 when you have a chance?" I stared at the message for a long time. They couldn't attend my defining career moment, but they could ask for money. The irony was almost poetic. The Security Summit ceremony was held in an ornate ballroom at the Palace Hotel. I sat between Aaron and Gregory at the nominees' table, dressed in a new suit I'd bought for the occasion. The room buzzed with industry leaders, many of whom had approached me earlier to discuss potential partnerships. When the announcer called, "And the Cybersecurity Innovation Award goes to Secure Shield Technologies," the room erupted in applause. I walked to the stage in a daze, accepted the crystal trophy, and faced the audience. My carefully prepared speech flowed naturally, thanking our team, our investors, and our clients for believing in our vision. I spoke about the future of security in a connected world and our commitment to protecting sensitive data. The audience responded with a standing ovation. After the ceremony, we celebrated with champagne and congratulations from competitors and potential partners alike. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from colleagues and industry contacts, none from my family. Around midnight, I checked my phone one last time. A single message from my mother had arrived during the ceremony. "Travis scored 30 points tonight. They're advancing to the finals. Could you send that money soon? He needs the equipment before next weekend." No question about the award. No congratulations. Not even a perfunctory "how did it go?" Just another request for money and news about Travis. In that moment, standing in a hotel ballroom surrounded by people who respected my work, something inside me finally broke. The last thread of hope that my family might someday see me, truly see me, snapped cleanly in two. I felt a strange calm settle over me, like the silence after a thunderstorm. I knew what I needed to do. The morning after the ceremony, I woke to dozens of congratulatory emails and text messages. Our company's win had been featured in TechCrunch, Wired, and several industry newsletters. Our website traffic had tripled overnight, and 3 major corporations had requested meetings. The crystal trophy sat on my hotel room desk, catching the morning sunlight. I should have felt elated. Instead, I felt hollow. I scrolled through my phone again, confirming what I already knew. Not a word from my parents, Travis, or Laura. Their silence spoke volumes. Over room service coffee, I opened my mother's text from the previous night and stared at it. The casual expectation that I would send money while they couldn't even acknowledge my achievement crystallized something I had been avoiding for years. In my family's eyes, my value was purely transactional. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Aaron entered carrying pastries and a newspaper. "We made the business section," he said, tossing the paper onto the bed. "Small mention, but still. You okay? You disappeared early last night." I showed him my mother's text. Aaron read it twice, his expression darkening. "That's," he began, then shook his head. "I don't even have words." "I do," I said quietly. "It's exploitative, and I've allowed it for years." Aaron sat beside me. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to stop hoping they'll change," I replied. "I've been chasing their approval my entire life, and all I've gotten is disappointment." That afternoon, I met Naomi for coffee in the hotel lobby. I had met Naomi during my final year at MIT when she consulted for student entrepreneurs. Now running her own coaching practice, she had become both a business advisor and a trusted friend. "You look terrible," she said bluntly, sliding into the seat across from me. "Congratulations on the award, by the way." I summarized the situation with my family, showing her the text messages and explaining their absence at the ceremony. Naomi listened without interruption, then leaned forward. "Delmar, I'm going to ask you something important. What would happen if you stopped trying to win their approval?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Yes, you do. she pressed. "You're one of the most analytical people I know. What happens in a system when you remove a negative feedback loop?" "The system rebalances," I replied automatically. "It finds a new equilibrium." She nodded. "Exactly. Right now, your relationship with your family is a negative feedback loop. You seek approval, they withhold it but take what you offer, and you try harder. What if you just stopped participating in that loop?" The idea was simultaneously terrifying and liberating. "You mean cut contact?" "I mean establish boundaries," she clarified, "which might include limited or no contact for a while. Your family has shown they only value what you can give them materially. Maybe it's time to see what happens when that's no longer available." That evening, I sat alone in my hotel room, with a legal pad. I listed every financial contribution I had made to my family over the past 5 years. Helping with my parents' mortgage when Dad had knee surgery and couldn't coach, paying off Laura's student loans, covering Travis's training expenses, funding family vacations I was too busy to attend. The total exceeded $150,000. Next to this, I listed what I had received in return. Occasional phone calls that inevitably turned to discussions of Travis's achievements, requests for more money, and consistent dismissal of my work and accomplishments. The imbalance was stark and undeniable. I had been buying the illusion of family connection, and it was a poor investment. At midnight, I made my decision. I composed a brief email to my parents. "I've decided to take some time away from family contact to focus on my personal and professional development. I will no longer be providing financial support. Please respect my need for space by not contacting me. I wish you all well." I changed my phone number, created email filters to automatically archive messages from family members, and unfriended them on social media. I left instructions with my assistant that no calls from my family should be put through. The process took less than an hour, but it felt like dismantling a lifetime. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. Like setting down a heavy backpack I had carried for so long I'd forgotten it was there. I extended my stay in San Francisco for another week, meeting with potential clients and partners. Without the constant background anxiety of family obligations, I found myself more present and focused. Conversations flowed more naturally, decisions came more easily, and for the first time in years, I slept without waking to check my phone. Upon returning to Boston, I threw myself into expanding Secure Shield. We doubled our development team, opened a small sales office in Chicago, and began work on a consumer version of our security protocol. I leased a new apartment with a view of the Charles River, bought furniture I actually liked rather than the cheapest functional options, and started taking weekends off. 3 weeks after changing my number, I received an email from my mother that slipped through my filters. The subject line read, "Where are you?" and the message consisted of a single line. "Travis needs the money for his equipment. Why aren't you answering our calls?" No mention of my email. No acknowledgement of my request for space. Just another demand. I archived it without responding and added a stronger filter. 2 days later, a similar message arrived from my father, this one more accusatory. "Your mother is worried sick." This is incredibly selfish and immature behavior. I blocked their email addresses entirely. With the psychological burden of my family's expectations lifted, I found new energy for both work and personal growth. I joined a rowing club, started seeing a therapist specializing in family trauma, and developed friendships outside of work for the first time in my adult life. 6 months into my self-imposed family exile, Secure Shield secured a $15 million Series A funding round, valuing our company at $70 million. We expanded to 35 employees across 3 offices, with enterprise clients including 2 major banks and a government contractor. I began mentoring young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds, finding unexpected fulfillment in helping others navigate the challenges I had faced alone. Through this program, I met Eliza, a brilliant software engineer running an education technology startup. Our professional relationship quickly evolved into friendship and then something deeper. Eliza was the first person I fully opened up to about my family history. We were having dinner at her favorite Italian restaurant when she asked about my parents. "I don't speak to them," I said simply, waiting for the usual uncomfortable reaction this statement typically elicited. Instead, she nodded. Family estrangement is more common than most people realize. I didn't speak to my father for 3 years after college. What happened? I asked. He made some very poor choices that hurt our family, she explained. I needed space to build my own life without his chaos. Eventually, we established a new relationship with clear boundaries. But the break was necessary. Her understanding was like a key unlocking something inside me. That night, I told her everything. The years of dismissal, the constant prioritizing of Travis, the financial exploitation, and finally, my decision to cut contact. You didn't cut them off, she said when I finished. You just stopped letting them cut pieces out of you. With Eliza's support, I continued therapy and gradually built what my therapist called a chosen family, people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen and accepted. 1 year after winning the Cybersecurity Innovation Award, SecureShield was nominated for inclusion in Forbes 30 Under 30 list in the Enterprise Technology category. The nomination process included extensive interviews, financial disclosures, and reference checks. When the Forbes reporter asked about my background and influences, I spoke about MIT professors, mentors like Gregory, and colleagues like Aaron. I didn't mention my family. 3 weeks later, my phone rang with a New York number I didn't recognize. Expecting a business call, I answered professionally. Is this Delmar Williams? A woman's voice asked. Yes, speaking. This is Jessica Tanner from Forbes. I'm calling to inform you that you've been selected for our 30 Under 30 list in Enterprise Technology. Congratulations. The magazine would be published the following month, with a feature article about SecureShield and our impact on the cybersecurity industry. They scheduled a professional photo shoot, and I spent an afternoon answering questions about my journey from MIT student to CEO of a rapidly growing security company. When the issue hit newsstands, I bought a copy and took it to dinner with Eliza, Aaron, and Naomi. We toasted with champagne as they read the article aloud, laughing at the overly dramatic descriptions of our revolutionary technology. To Delmar, Aaron said, raising his glass, who proved that success is the best revenge. I smiled but shook my head. Not revenge, liberation. That night, as Eliza and I walked along the river, she squeezed my hand. How does it feel? Being recognized like this? I considered the question seriously. It feels like validation. Not that I needed external validation, but it's nice to know that what we built matters. That I made the right choice focusing on my own path. You did, she said simply, and I'm proud of you for having the courage to do it. That validation, both personal and professional, too, was something my family had never provided. Now I had found it elsewhere, built on a foundation of mutual respect rather than obligation. And it was infinitely more satisfying than the approval I had chased for so many years. The 6 months following our Forbes recognition transformed SecureShield from a promising startup to an industry leader. Our client base expanded to include 3 Fortune 100 companies, 2 federal government agencies, and dozens of mid-sized enterprises across North America and Europe. Our staff grew to 50 full-time employees working from offices in Boston, Chicago, and a newly opened location in Austin. With success came new challenges. I found myself traveling constantly, pitching to potential clients, speaking at industry conferences, and meeting with investors interested in our next funding round. The work was exhilarating but exhausting. For the first time, I understood why successful entrepreneurs often seem to have little life outside their companies. Fortunately, I had something they didn't, a support system built on genuine care rather than obligation. Eliza understood the demands of building a company, having navigated similar challenges with her education technology startup. When I returned from business trips exhausted and overwhelmed, she created space for recovery without judgment or resentment. Sustainable success requires sustainable practices, she would remind me, gently taking my laptop when I tried working through dinner. The company needs you at your best, not your most burned out. With her encouragement, I established boundaries I would never have considered before. No email after 9 p.m., actual weekends off at least twice a month, and regular sessions with my therapist, regardless of how busy the schedule became. These practices, initially uncomfortable for someone accustomed to working constantly, gradually became essential to my well-being and effectiveness. My therapy sessions increasingly focused on processing my family history rather than just coping with its consequences. Dr. Martin helped me understand how growing up with conditional approval had shaped my work habits and relationships. "You've spent most of your life trying to earn love through achievement," he observed during one particularly insightful session. "That's a pattern worth examining, even as you build this new chapter." He was right. Even with my family removed from my life, I sometimes caught myself working to exhaustion, seeking validation through accomplishments, rather than finding inherent worth in who I was beyond what I produced. This realization led me to explore interests outside work and technology. I joined a community woodworking class, reconnected with classical piano after a 15-year hiatus, and volunteered monthly at a youth coding program in an underserved Boston neighborhood. These activities nourished parts of myself I had neglected while pursuing success at all costs. Aaron noticed the change during our weekly strategy lunch. "You're different lately," he said, studying me over his sandwich. "Calmer, more present." "I'm learning that success includes more than work," I replied. He nodded thoughtfully. "Makes sense. You spent your whole life proving yourself to people who weren't paying attention. Must be nice to finally stop running that race." His observation was accurate. For the first time, I was building a life based on what fulfilled me, rather than what might finally win approval from people unwilling or unable to give it. The professional momentum continued building. In September, SecureShield closed a $20 million Series B funding round that valued the company at $100 million. The investment came with board seats for 2 seasoned technology executives who brought valuable industry connections and operational expertise. Media coverage expanded beyond technology publications to mainstream business outlets. I appeared on CNBC discussing cybersecurity challenges for enterprise clients, wrote a guest column for the Wall Street Journal about data protection regulations, and was featured in a Business Insider profile of tech's next generation. This visibility attracted acquisition offers from larger security firms and technology conglomerates. While flattering, these offers undermined our vision of building an independent company that could define the next generation of data security. With board support, we declined all acquisition approaches, focusing instead on organic growth and strategic partnerships. In November, we released a consumer version of our security protocol designed for small businesses and individual users. The product launch exceeded projections, with 50,000 subscriptions in the first month and glowing reviews from technology critics. This expansion into the consumer market diversified our revenue streams and raised our public profile considerably. Throughout this period of intense growth and attention, I maintained my commitment to personal boundaries. I declined invitations to family-themed media opportunities, redirected interviews away from childhood influences, and focused discussions on the technology and team rather than my personal background. When pressed about my family, I offered polite but firm deflections. "I prefer to keep my personal and professional lives separate, or I'm here to discuss our security solutions, not my family dynamics." As the holiday season approached, Eliza and I planned a 2-week vacation to New Zealand, my first extended break since founding the company. Aaron would handle day-to-day operations with support from our experienced executive team. The evening before our departure, as we finished packing, Eliza presented me with an early Christmas gift, a vintage pocket watch, with an inscription inside the cover. "Time belongs to you now," it read. "Use it wisely. To replace the time you spent seeking approval from people who couldn't give it," she explained. "This is yours to spend however you choose." The gesture moved me deeply. It acknowledged both where I had come from and how far I had traveled, not just in success but in personal growth. I was learning to value myself independently of external validation, to recognize worth beyond achievement. 2 days before Christmas, relaxing at a secluded lodge on New Zealand's South Island, I received an email from our PR director. Forbes had published their annual Under 30 issue, and the digital version was already generating significant attention for SecureShield. The physical magazine would be distributed nationwide the following week. I thanked her for the update and set my phone aside, choosing to remain present in the moment rather than immediately checking the coverage. This small decision, prioritizing my personal life over professional validation, marked a subtle but significant shift in my relationship with success. On the flight back to Boston in early January, I reviewed the year's achievements, securing major funding, expanding our team, launching a successful consumer product, and gaining industry recognition. By any objective measure, it had been an extraordinary period of growth for both the company and myself personally. Yet the achievement that meant most wasn't listed in any business report or media coverage. It was the quiet realization that I had finally stopped measuring my worth through others' approval. I had built a life aligned with my values, surrounded by people who genuinely cared for me, engaged in work that mattered. The freedom from seeking validation from those unwilling to give, it was more valuable than any industry award or magazine feature. It was the peace that comes from finally recognizing your own worth, independent of others' inability to see it. Landing in Boston, I felt genuinely excited to return to work, not from obligation or the need to prove myself, but from genuine engagement with creating something meaningful. The company was thriving, my relationship with Eliza was deepening, and my personal well-being had never been stronger. Little did I know that while I had been building this new life, the past was about to make an unexpected return. On a Wednesday afternoon in February, exactly 1 year and 2 months after I cut contact with my family, my assistant knocked on my office door. "There's a Laura Williams on line 3, she said. "Says she's your sister. She's called 4 times today." My pulse quickened. "Did she say what it's about?" "Just that it's urgent family business. Should I take a message?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Get her number. I'll decide later if I want to call back." After she left, I sat motionless, staring at the blinking light on my desk phone. I hadn't spoken to Laura or any family member since that night in the hotel room. Why reach out now, after all this time? Curiosity won. I dialed Laura's number from my personal cell phone. She answered immediately. "Delmar? Is that really you?" "It's me," I confirmed, my voice carefully neutral. "What's going on?" "You're famous," she blurted. "You're in Forbes magazine. Travis found it at his dentist's office yesterday." The moment felt surreal. After more than a year of silence, this was what prompted contact. "That's what's urgent?" I asked. "No, I mean, Dad's furious." Travis called him panicking, saying, "How did he get in Forbes without us knowing? Mom's been crying. Everyone's freaking out because apparently you're some big successful CEO now." I closed my eyes, processing this information. "Laura, I've been a CEO for almost 4 years. The company has been growing for years. This isn't new information." "Well, it's new to us. The article says your company is worth $100 million. You have 50 employees. You've invented some security thing that big banks use." Her voice cracked slightly. "Why didn't you tell us?" The irony was almost too much. "I tried, Laura. For years I tried telling all of you about my work. No one was interested. The last straw was when you all skipped the industry awards ceremony to attend Travis's basketball tournament." Silence stretched between us. Finally, Laura spoke softly. "I remember that. I wanted to come to your thing, but Dad said we needed to support Travis as a family. And now you're calling because you saw me in a magazine?" "No," she said quickly. "Well, yes, that's what prompted it. But I've actually been thinking about you a lot, trying to find a way to reach out. The magazine just gave me the push I needed." I remained skeptical. "What do Mom and Dad want? More money?" Laura's voice hardened. "That's not fair. They're upset because their son disappeared and is suddenly in national magazines. They have a right to be concerned." Concerned? Or angry they missed their chance to benefit from my success? "Both, probably," she admitted, surprising me with her honesty. "But mostly they're hurt and confused. We all are. You vanished without explanation." I sent an email clearly explaining my decision, I corrected. "A 3-sentence email after years of family relationship. That's hardly adequate." She had a point, though I was reluctant to acknowledge it. "What do you want from me, Laura?" Her answer came quietly. "Coffee. Just a conversation. Just me, no one else. I have things I want to say to you, and I think you deserve to hear them." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her the following Sunday at a cafe near my apartment. After hanging up, I immediately called Eliza and then my therapist, processing the unexpected contact and setting boundaries for the meeting. Sunday arrived cold and clear. I spotted Laura immediately as I entered the cafe. She looked both familiar and strange, like a character from a half-forgotten dream. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner than I remembered. "You look good," she said after an awkward greeting. "Success suits you." "I'm happy," I replied simply. "That's what suits me." We ordered and found a quiet corner table. For several minutes, we exchanged surface-level updates. She had completed her master's degree in education and was teaching high school English. She had gotten engaged to her college boyfriend, James. Mom and Dad were still in the same house. Travis was playing semi-professional basketball for a development league team. Finally, Laura set down her coffee cup decisively. "I owe you an apology, Delmar. We all do, but I'm the only one here, so I'll start. I hadn't expected this." "For what specifically?" "For being complicit in how the family treated you. For accepting the narrative that Travis was the special one who deserved all the attention and support. For not speaking up when you were consistently overlooked." Her eyes glistened. "For being so wrapped up in my own relationship with Mom and Dad that I didn't notice how much you were hurting." The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. "Thank you for saying that. Reading that article about you, it made me realize how little I knew about your life, your accomplishments, the fact that you've built something genuinely important." She shook her head. "And the worst part is, it's not because you didn't try to tell us. It's because we didn't listen." "No, you didn't," I agreed quietly. "The way Travis reacted when he saw the magazine was telling," she continued. "He was angry. Actually angry that you'd succeeded so dramatically without his knowledge. Like you'd somehow stolen something from him by becoming successful independently. And Mom and Dad?" Laura sighed. "Mom cried because she realized she doesn't know you anymore. Dad oscillates between pride, he's telling neighbors his son is in Forbes, and resentment that you cut contact. They're both struggling to reconcile their image of you with the person you've become." "The person I always was," I corrected. "They just never saw it." She nodded slowly. "That's fair. And that's why I wanted to talk to you. To acknowledge that we failed you as a family, that I failed you as a sister." Her words loosened something tight in my chest. "Not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps the beginning of understanding." "What happens now?" I asked. "They want back in my life because I'm successful?" "They want back in your life because they miss you," Laura said, then added honestly, "And yes, probably because your success has forced them to reconsider their perception of you. But mostly, I think they're realizing what they lost. I wasn't ready to reestablish contact with my parents or Travis. The wounds were still too fresh, the patterns too ingrained. But this conversation with Laura offered something I hadn't expected. Acknowledgement of the hurt without excuses or deflection. "I need time," I told her. "And if I ever decide to have any contact with Mom and Dad again, it would need to be with professional support, a family therapist." Laura nodded. "That's more than fair. I'll respect whatever boundaries you set." As we parted, she hugged me briefly. "I'm proud of you," she whispered, "not because you're in Forbes or running a successful company, but because you had the courage to break patterns that weren't serving you. I wish I had that kind of courage." I walked home in the winter sunlight, feeling oddly lighter. The conversation hadn't resolved everything. Nothing could, but it had cracked open a door I thought permanently sealed. Over the next week, the rest of my family made contact attempts. Travis sent a LinkedIn request with a message that read simply, "So you're a big shot now and can't even call your brother? Class act." I declined the connection without responding. My father emailed my work address. "Your mother and I are disappointed that you've achieved such success without sharing it with your family. We raised you to value family above all else. This behavior shows a concerning lack of gratitude. No congratulations. No acknowledgement of their role in the estrangement. Just criticism and entitlement." My mother's approach was more emotional. "My heart breaks every day not knowing how you're doing. Now I find out from a magazine that my son is successful and didn't think to tell his own mother. What did we do to deserve such treatment?" These messages confirmed that reconnection, if it happened at all, would require significant work and professional guidance. Without acknowledgement of the patterns that led to our estrangement, any reconciliation would simply reinstate the same dysfunctional dynamics. I shared the messages with Dr. Martin during our next session. "What do you want?" he asked after reading them. "Not what you think you should want, or what would make others happy. What do you, Delmar, actually want regarding your family?" I considered the question carefully. I want acknowledgement of the patterns that hurt me. I want relationship based on mutual respect rather than obligation. I want connection without exploitation. He nodded. "Those are reasonable desires. The question is whether your family is capable of providing them." "Laura might be," I said. "The others, I'm not sure they even see the patterns, let alone want to change them." "Then perhaps start there," he suggested. "One relationship at a time, with clear boundaries and realistic expectations." That evening, I called Laura and proposed continued communication between us, with the possibility of eventually exploring family therapy if genuine interest emerged from our parents. She agreed immediately, expressing relief that I wasn't shutting the door entirely. For the first time, I was approaching family relationships from a position of strength rather than need, choosing connection based on health rather than seeking validation I might never receive. Whatever happened next would be on my terms, guided by what served my well-being rather than others' expectations. The power dynamic had fundamentally shifted, not because of financial success or public recognition, but because I had finally recognized my own worth, independent of their ability to see it. 6 months after that first coffee with Laura, I sat in a comfortable office overlooking Boston Harbor. Across from me, Dr. Suzanne Levine, a family therapist specializing in estrangement and reconciliation, reviewed her notes from our previous sessions. "Today will be challenging," she reminded me. "First meetings usually are. Remember our discussion about expectations and boundaries?" I nodded, trying to calm my racing heart. After months of individual preparation sessions, I had agreed to meet with my parents in a controlled therapeutic environment. Laura would attend as support, while Travis had declined participation, calling the whole process unnecessary drama. When my parents entered the room, the sight of them hit me with unexpected force. My father looked older, gray now dominating his once dark hair. My mother seemed smaller somehow, her confident posture diminished. For a moment, we simply stared at each other across the emotional chasm of 18 months without contact. Dr. Levine guided introductions and set ground rules for our session. No interrupting, no accusatory language. Each person would have uninterrupted time to express their perspective. My father spoke first, his voice carrying the authoritative tone I remembered from childhood. "I don't understand why we needed a therapist to talk to our own son," he began, looking at Dr. Levine rather than me. "In my day, families worked things out privately." "Robert," Dr. Levine said gently, "remember our discussion about open communication. Try expressing your feelings directly to Delmar." He sighed heavily, then turned to me. "Fine. I feel confused and hurt. You disappeared without explanation, ignored all our attempts to contact you, and then we find out from a magazine that you're some big success. It feels like a betrayal of family values." I noticed he still framed everything in terms of his experience, with no acknowledgement of mine. Some patterns ran deep. My mother's turn revealed more awareness. "I miss you," she said simply, tears gathering. "And I realize we may have contributed to this situation more than I initially understood. Laura has. Helped me see some things differently." Laura caught my eye and gave a small nod. She had been doing significant emotional labor within the family during my absence. When my turn came, I spoke carefully, drawing on months of preparation with Dr. Martin. "I didn't cut contact on a whim or to hurt you. I did it as a last resort after years of feeling unseen and undervalued. The award ceremony was just the final instance in a lifelong pattern." "What pattern?" my father interrupted, earning a gentle reminder from Dr. Levine about the ground rules. "The pattern," I continued, "where Travis's activities always took priority, where my achievements were minimized or ignored, where I was expected to provide financial support without receiving emotional support in return." My mother flinched at this last point, while my father's expression hardened. "That's not fair," he protested when allowed to respond. "We supported you. We paid for your education." "My scholarship paid for my education," I corrected. "I worked 3 jobs to cover living expenses." "Well, we would have helped if you'd asked," he countered. "I did ask. Several times. You said investing in Travis's basketball training was the priority because he had real potential." My father had no response to this. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, he seemed genuinely at a loss for words. Dr. Levine guided us through 2 hours of similarly difficult exchanges. By the end, little was resolved, but something important had occurred. Truth had been spoken aloud, without minimization or denial. It was a small first step on what would likely be a very long road. "This is a process," Dr. Levine reminded us as the session concluded. "Today was just the beginning. I encourage everyone to reflect on what they heard and consider areas where growth might be needed." In the elevator afterward, Laura squeezed my hand. "You did great. That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," I admitted, "but it was necessary." Over the following months, we continued family therapy alongside my individual sessions with Dr. Martin. Progress came in small increments. My father struggled the most, his identity so wrapped up in Travis's athletic achievements that acknowledging his neglect of my path required dismantling core beliefs about fatherhood and success. My mother proved more adaptable, gradually expressing genuine interest in my work and life. During our 4th session, she made a breakthrough admission. "I think I focused on Travis because I understood his world. Sports, popularity, those were familiar. Your technology interests intimidated me. It was easier to celebrate what I comprehended." This honest self-reflection opened the door to authentic connection. We began having monthly dinners, just the 2 of us, where she asked thoughtful questions about my company and relationship with Eliza. Slowly, she became someone I wanted in my life, rather than someone I felt obligated to accommodate. My relationship with my father evolved more slowly, with frequent setbacks. A pivotal moment came when Travis's development league team folded, ending his professional basketball aspirations. My father's identity, so long defined by Travis's athletic promise, required significant reconstruction. During this difficult transition, I offered to connect Travis with contacts in sports technology companies, where his athletic background might provide unique perspective. My father initially interpreted this as pity rather than genuine assistance. Only after several heated therapy sessions did he recognize his own pattern of valuing certain types of success over others. "I pushed Travis toward basketball because I understood it," he finally admitted during our 6th month of therapy. "I ignored your interests because they made me feel inadequate. That was my failure, not yours." This admission, though painful for him, marked a turning point in our relationship. For the first time, he saw me clearly, not as an extension of his expectations, but as an individual who had forged his own path despite, not because of, family support. Meanwhile, Secure Shield continued its growth trajectory. We expanded to 75 employees across 4 offices, with clients in 12 countries. Our consumer security product reached 200,000 subscribers, and our enterprise solution protected sensitive data for dozens of major corporations. Eliza and I moved in together, blending our lives and work in a penthouse apartment overlooking the city. Her education technology company partnered with school districts nationwide, bringing innovative learning tools to underserved communities. We complemented each other professionally and personally, each understanding the demands of building something meaningful. During a company retreat in Vermont, I found myself sharing more about my family journey with Aaron than I ever had before. We sat by a fire after the other executives had retired for the evening, nursing whiskeys and reflecting on our 5-year partnership. "I never thought reconciliation was even possible," I admitted, "let alone something I might want." Aaron studied me thoughtfully. "You're different now, stronger. You're approaching them from a place of choice rather than need." That's exactly it, I realized. I don't need their approval anymore, which paradoxically makes it possible to have a relationship that isn't based on seeking validation. He raised his glass. To building a life so good that reconnection becomes a choice, not a necessity. As fall gave way to winter, Eliza and I hosted a dinner party in our home. The guest list included Aaron and his girlfriend, Naomi and her husband, and, for the first time, Laura and her fiancé James. This small integration of family and chosen family represented a new chapter, one where I defined the terms of connection, rather than desperately seeking inclusion. During dinner, Laura raised her glass. To Delmar, who had the courage to break unhealthy patterns, and the wisdom to know which connections were worth rebuilding. The toast touched me deeply, acknowledging both the painful break and the careful reconstruction that followed. Not every relationship could or should be salvaged, but some, with proper boundaries and mutual respect, could evolve into something healthier than before. 2 years after cutting contact with my family, I stood in Central Park on a crisp October morning, waiting for my parents to arrive. They had traveled to New York for a weekend visit, their first trip to see me rather than expecting me to return home. This small gesture of effort on their part represented significant progress. As they approached, I noticed my father carrying a small package. After greetings and a slightly awkward embrace, he handed it to me. "I found this in the attic," he explained. "Thought you might want it." Inside was a battered circuit board, my first computer building project from age 11. I had assumed it was discarded decades ago. "You kept this?" I asked, genuinely surprised. My father looked uncomfortable. "Your grandmother insisted. Said someday we'd understand how special it was." Grandma Eleanor, even after her death, was still advocating for the part of me my parents couldn't see. The realization brought unexpected emotion. "Thank you," I said simply. "This means a lot." We walked through the park toward the restaurant where Eliza would meet us for lunch. The conversation wasn't effortless, but it flowed more naturally than I would have thought possible 2 years earlier. We were establishing a new relationship, not perfect, but more balanced and honest than before. That evening, after my parents returned to their hotel, Eliza found me examining the old circuit board. "Important artifact?" she asked, sitting beside me. "Evidence that I was always who I am," I replied, "even when no one was looking." She rested her head on my shoulder. "The people who matter see you now, including yourself. That's the most important part." And that was the deepest lesson of this journey, learning to see myself clearly and value what I found there, regardless of others' ability to do the same. Breaking the pattern of seeking external validation had freed me to build a life aligned with my own values rather than others' expectations. The relationship with my family would always carry complications. Some wounds heal but leave scars. Some patterns can be modified but never entirely erased. But I no longer measured my worth through their perception. I had learned to trust my own evaluation, to build connections based on mutual respect rather than desperate need for approval. In the end, the greatest achievement wasn't the company valuation, the industry awards, or the magazine covers. It was the internal freedom that came from finally recognizing my own value, independent of anyone else's ability to see or acknowledge it. Have you ever had to create distance from people who couldn't see your value? How did you find the strength to establish healthy boundaries? Share your stories in the comments below. If this journey resonated with you, please subscribe and hit the like button to help others find this story. Remember that sometimes the family we choose brings more healing than the family we're born into. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to value yourself, even when others don't.